Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into another edition of Keytime Sports. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube, Key City Sports on Instagram, right here as it's coming up, and the key on millions.co. Here is my media feed. Here is my profile so that you will know it's me. And here is our merchandise that is also on this page. We will be having new merchandise throughout the rest of this year, and we will start on that very quickly. So now we had a 5-game slate last night, and the very first game I am going to talk about is the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Toronto Raptors. Now, this was the best. This was the best team in the West, and the fifth, according to the standings, the fifth best team in the East. So, first game, it started out first, starting out like this. Isaiah Hartenstein, he had 26 minutes and 11 points. Chet Holmgren, 7 points. Isaiah Joe, 22 points. Lugaz Dort, 15 points. Kaysen Wallace, 27 points. Gildress Alexander is still out nursing an injury, and he will be back for the foreseeable. He will be back in the season before the playoffs start. But as I was watching this game last night, I was looking at this and saying to myself, could the Toronto Raptors actually keep pace with the Toronto Raptors? No, because they can't. Now, one thing about it, Toronto, they are relatively a young bunch, and I don't see them getting to the NBA Finals. I don't see them getting to the NBA Finals. And Oklahoma City, we all know that early in the season, Oklahoma, it seemed like they were invincible, but over the last 6 weeks, it seems like they can be had on the hardwood. And in the last 6 weeks, I believe the Oklahoma City Thunder, they have lost double-digit games because they were before December 15th, they only had 6 losses on their schedule. 6 losses, and now they have 14, so they've lost eight games out of a possible 23, 24. So Oklahoma City, they're still good and everything. Not to mention the San Antonio Spurs are right there the on Oklahoma on Oklahoma's heels when it comes to them winning and losing games. And so this is what I was saying. There's going to be so much fluctuation with the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference over the next 3.5 weeks to 4 weeks because the playoffs start on April the 23rd. So in exactly 2 months. So in the next 6 to 8 weeks, it's going to be a lot of fluctuation throughout the NBA, whether it's the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference. Now here's a few clips from last night's game that I'm going to play, and I'm going to tell you all that mainly this game right here was pretty much, I'm just going to get straight to the fourth quarter because that's where it was pretty close. And as you can see right here where the Toronto Raptors, they were down by 10, started to make a little run. But as we get to the last 2-3 minutes of the fourth quarter, see, this is where things really got tight. OKC is up 7. Lugaz Dort, jumper, good. They are up by 9 now. And now, see, this is where Oklahoma, they have a bunch of closers on the floor in situations like this. But their ultimate closer, SGA, he is still out. As you can see, Lugaz Dort again. And as you can see, when it comes to Oklahoma City, as far as defending, obviously throughout the past few weeks, Oklahoma, they haven't been able to defend as well as they needed to earlier on in the season. See, as you can see, this game, it was pretty much closer in the final 3 minutes than it needed to be. But in the end, Oklahoma City was able to win this game, and they pretty much showed resiliency without having their best player on the floor. The next game I am going to cover is the New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, as of right now, the Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers, they have the same exact record in the East. They are respectfully 3-4 in the Eastern Conference right now in the third and fourth spot. But I believe that Cleveland, they pretty much edge out New York by percentage points. So I wouldn't be surprised if Cleveland goes up one and the Knicks fall down one. But back to what I was saying when it comes to the New York Knicks, and this is pretty much what I've been saying about the New York Knicks for the past couple of years. They have top-notch guys, but they really don't play up to par in the games that really matter. Now, I know that this is a regular season game, but this is pretty much a game where it matters because you have playoff, well, it's not really playoff seeding, but if you lose this game, it drops you. It really does. Now, for the Knicks, you had OG Anunoby. He played 34 minutes, had 5 points, and that's not good. Karl Anthony Towns, he played 29 minutes, had 14 points, which is not good. Josh Hart, 10 points, which is pretty much that's pretty much his average. So he did play up to his average. You had Mikal Bridges, he had 18 points. Jalen Brunson had 20 points. Then you get to the bench production, and the New York Knicks over the last 3 years, they have fallen off when it comes to bench production because of Tom Thibodeau and now because of Mike Brown. It seems like that the New York Knicks bench production has been one of the worst over the past 4 years, and that is no slight to the New York Knicks. Starters, it seems like the starters, they just carry the whole thing for the New York Knicks, and as the starters go to the bench, it seems like that's when their opponents make these runs, make these 15-9 runs or 10-2 runs. And last night, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they were efficient in the paint so much to where that the Cleveland Cavaliers had over 40 points in the paint. Now, the New York Knicks, they pride themselves on defense. I do believe that. They pride themselves on defense. But we've seen New York Knicks have games like this. They had a game just the other day against the Detroit Pistons like this. They had a game against the Boston Celtics earlier in the season like this. And this is why I say that the Boston Celtics are the de facto number one team in the NBA, because Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham, and Jalen Duren, it seems like those are the only two legitimate scorers they have. And as for number 3 on the list when it comes to the Eastern Conference, the Knicks, they are hit and miss. The Cleveland Cavaliers sometimes are hit and miss. But James Harden, with James Harden in Cleveland, Cleveland hasn't lost a game. But this is the regular season. We got to see what James Harden does in the playoffs. Because at the end of the day, you make your name in the playoffs. You make your career in the playoffs. And we all know how many times James Harden has came up small and crumbled like a cookie in a Game 7. But that is nor here nor there. To get back to the game at hand, The Cleveland Cavaliers, everybody, their top five guys, their starting five, they were efficient. You had Dean Wade with 11 points, Jared Allen with 19, Evan Mobley with 12, James Harden, like I just said, with 20, and Donovan Mitchell with 23 points. The Cavaliers, as far as their starting five, is the most efficient starting five in the NBA. And I'm going to say this, with the Cleveland Cavaliers starting five, as far as their average, when it comes to a starting five, it is always 65 points. 65 points. That is how much a starting five for the Cavaliers, they always average. As a group, 65 points. Now, when you have a team when you have a starting five that averages 65 points, most of those games you are going to be leading well deep into the fourth quarter. And this is where the Cavaliers, last 3 years, they've had first round and second round exits. Let's see if the Cavaliers can make it past the second round and possibly face the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. Because I can see that happening. I can see the Cleveland Cavaliers, as we look at the standings right now, I can see the Cleveland Cavaliers beating the Toronto Raptors. I can see that because Cleveland Cavaliers, they have home court advantage if the playoffs were to start today. Then after that, the Cavaliers, they would face the winner of the 3-6 matchup. And as of right now, that would pencil the Knicks and the 76ers. Now, we all know that the 76ers are hit and miss, and we all know that the Knicks are hit and miss. So, this is pretty much placing the Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics. Even if Jason Tatum don't come back, I believe that the Boston Celtics will still be able to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Yes, I did say it because I don't know what I'm going to see from the Detroit Pistons and the New York Knicks. Y'all already know I've been on the fence about the New York Knicks all season long. So, back to what I was saying, my final thoughts about this game was pretty much the same thing that I took away from their previous matchups on Christmas Day and last month. The Cavaliers are simply just better than the New York Knicks. They have better bench production, and they have a more efficient starting five. So all you New York Knicks fans out there, it's going to be tough sledding. It is. It's going to be tough sledding in the playoffs and going into next season. It is going to be tough sledding for the New York Knicks. Now, here's some things that I want to show you all about this game. This was in the second quarter, and pretty much the Cavaliers, they did what they were supposed to do. Protect home court. This is going into halftime. You have Karl Anthony Towns, foul shot, little bit of a floater, and you have James Harden not making the basket. And then we get to late in the fourth quarter, and it was pretty much, a blowout because let's just face it, when the New York Knicks go to their bench, that is where opponents beat them the most. Bench production. New York Knicks, they don't have a good bench production, and that will hurt them in the playoffs. No matter who they play, they may be able to get away with that, not having good bench production versus the 76ers. But if you face a team like the Cavaliers, like the Detroit Pistons, or the Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks are going to lose in the playoffs, no matter what. So, the next game I am going to cover is the Boston Celtics, and as we can see, efficiency for the Boston Celtics has been great, and I'm going to tell you all something. Coming into the season, I had the Boston Celtics number 6. I had them getting into the play-in tournament. For the Boston Celtics to be number 2 in the East right now, and Jason Tatum has not played all season, congratulations to Jaylen Brown. I'm going to say that. Congratulations to Jaylen Brown. Congratulations to Joe Mazzulla and the entire coaching staff for the Boston Celtics for keeping this team afloat. And March 1st, put this date down. March 1st, potentially Jason Tatum will be coming back. And I believe that if Jason Tatum comes back, they need to have him on a minutes restriction, maybe 15 to 20 minutes a game. And then by the time the playoffs come, he can have 10 to 15 games up under his belt. And the Boston Celtics can get ready for that playoff run and trying to get banner number 19. So let's get back to the game that was at hand last night. So Boston Celtics, Sam Hauser, 16 points. Names Quetta, 14 points. You had Derek White, 22 points. Ron Harper Jr., 8 points. Baylor Shearman, 11 points. Bench production, Delanto Blanton, 0 points. John Tanji, 0 points. Nikola Vucevic, 8 points. Luke Garza, 3 points. Peyton Pritchard, 8 points. Jordan Walsh, 5 points. Hugo Gonzalez, 2 points. Jaylen Brown did not play because of a right knee contusion. So this is a huge surplus for the Boston Celtics. For Jaylen Brown to be out and Jason Tatum out, and the Boston Celtics still find a way and manage to get this win behind Derek White's 22 points. It already says that the Boston Celtics are a resilient bunch. They are. And then you get to Phoenix. Phoenix, one thing that I can say is that Devin Booker, he did not play. And Phoenix, one thing about the Phoenix Suns, if Derek Booker doesn't play, it seems like Phoenix is already done for. That's what it seems like, because you see the starters, Royce O'Neal, 9 points. Ryan Dunn, 10 points. Mark Williams, 2 points. Colin Gillespie, 15 points. Jalen Green, 13 points. And you didn't get much from your bench production. If you are the Phoenix Suns, you didn't get much from it. And not to mention, team statistics right here, you can see where 3-point percentage, 28% for the Boston Celtics, 33% for the Phoenix Suns, and yet the Boston Celtics still win. Offensive rebounds, this is where the Celtics won this game. They were plus 13 in the offensive rebound department. Defensive rebounds plus 14. And the largest lead in this game for the Boston Celtics was 28. Largest lead for the Phoenix Suns was 11. But that came earlier on in the first quarter. So, Boston Celtics, I'm going to still say what I've been saying over the past couple of weeks. The Boston Celtics are, without a doubt, the best team in the East, because nobody else is going to take the torch away from the Boston Celtics, because everybody else has flaws. Everybody. And as you can see, this was the third quarter. This was the closest that the Phoenix Suns were as far as a deficit concerned. And as you can see, the ball movement, Derek White to Sam Hauser for 3. They were up by 15. See, the Celtics One thing that they do is they win without their top guys, and they've done that on multiple occasions throughout this era of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Now, the ball movement for the Boston Celtics, it is pretty much dominant, and that is exactly what they need, especially you don't know when Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum is going to come back, and possibly Jason Tatum, he may be coming back within a few days, or he may sit out the rest of the season. But either way, the Boston Celtics are going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals in the end, because I certainly see it, because Detroit, they are young, inexperienced, and when it comes to all of those other teams that I said, it really doesn't matter. Now, as we can get to the final few minutes of this game, this is pretty much a blowout, and Celtics were just pretty much going through the motions. They were up by as many as 28 in this game, and it was pretty much over with at that point. Now, let's get to the next game on the list that I watched last night. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, I'm going to tell y'all something. Portland Trail Blazers are still in the 9th spot in the Western Conference. Minnesota, by them winning last night, they are the number 15 in the West at the 5th spot. So now we see where Portland Trail Blazers pretty much, I don't believe that the Portland Trail Blazers can get no higher. Only thing I see the Portland Trail Blazers doing is dropping. Either 9 or 10, that's where the Portland Trail Blazers are going to be. But in this game last night, from what I saw an efficient Minnesota team. And like I've been telling everybody, Minnesota is one of those teams that are not really on the outside looking in. They are a diamond in the rough, because over the last 2 years, Minnesota has been one of the top 8 teams in the NBA when we get to playoff standings and when we get to the conference finals. It seems like the Minnesota Timberwolves are always there. Always. And as we get to the Portland Trail Blazers, they're just a team that the Portland Trail Blazers are just a team that is happy that they are being talked about this late in the season, because realistically, the Portland Trail Blazers, by this time in the season, they are already at the bottom of the basement in the Western Conference. So for the Minnesota Timberwolves, pretty much everybody was efficient last night for the Minnesota Timberwolves. You had Julius Randle, 13 points, Jaden McDaniels, 29 points, Rudy Gobert, 10 points, Dante DiVincenzo, 19 points, Anthony Edwards, 34 points. You didn't get much from your bench production, and you pretty much didn't need it, but the Portland Trail Blazers made it a game within the last 3 minutes of the fourth quarter. Naz Reid had 8 points. Anamo Adamu had 7 points. Terrence Shannon Jr. had 2 points. Bones Highland had 2 points. And then we get to the Portland Trail Blazers. You had Jeremy Grant, 21 points. Tomani Kamara, 11 points. Chris Murray, 16 points. Donovan Clingan, 11 points. Drew Holiday, 22 points. Matisse Bathal, 10 points. Vit Korecki, 8 points. Scott Henderson, 19 points. Sidi Kalosku, 3 points. Now, the matchup that everybody saw at hand, I already knew that the Minnesota Timberwolves were going to win this game, because Minnesota, they are trying to keep pace with everybody that is in front of them. And we already know that Minnesota, Anthony Edwards, he doesn't care what teams are in front of the Minnesota Timberwolves, because Anthony Edwards believes that any given day in any playoff series, the Minnesota Timberwolves can beat Denver, Houston, San Antonio, and for all intents and purposes, OKC. And I pretty much believe that too. But as of right now, if I could put some money down on the Minnesota Timberwolves to win their playoff series, now their first round playoff series would be against the Denver Nuggets. And we all know that the Denver Nuggets are hit and miss. And ever since Nikola Jokic has came back into the fold, it seems like the Denver Nuggets have lost more with Nikola Jokic in the lineup than out of the lineup. So that is pretty much having everybody take a step back from the Denver Nuggets, because Denver Nuggets are a long way from what they used to be 3 and 4 years ago when they came off of that elusive championship. Now, Denver Nuggets are a shell of themselves. You got the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are young, up and coming. Also, another team, all of these other teams are young and upcoming. Oklahoma, they are still young, even though that they won the championship last year. San Antonio, the Rockets, they are young and upcoming, but by default, they have playoff experience with the likes of Kevin Durant at the helm. So, Minnesota, worst case scenario for Minnesota, I could see them winning in the first round and losing in the second round. And best case scenario, Minnesota Timberwolves, they make it to the NBA Finals. Now, I know that is a little bit outlandish for me to say. Now, I'm just going to tell y'all something. If the Western Conference Finals were Oklahoma and Minnesota, you best believe that Minnesota can at least extend the series to 6 games. Now, if Minnesota plays the San Antonio Spurs, man, I'm going to tell y'all something. That series can go either way. So, Minnesota and San Antonio can go either way. Now, Minnesota and OKC, I got to give the edge to OKC based off of recent history when OKC plays Minnesota. I do. I just have to, and there's nothing that is going to change my mind, because I know that when the playoffs come, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the entire Oklahoma City basketball team will be ready. It's just about what Minnesota can do when it comes to their bench production, because Minnesota's bench production on a consistent basis, it hasn't been consistent. It hasn't. And as you can see, 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The game was pretty much tied, and the Timberwolves go up by 2 points. But as we get to the last 3 minutes left in this game, see, this is where I always say things get interesting, and the Portland Trail Blazers made it really interesting with 30 seconds left in this game. As you can see right here, Portland Trail Blazers make a 3 to take the deficit down to 5. Portland Trail Blazers make a 3 at the end of the game, and they lost by 3. So, Portland Trail Blazers, one thing that I can say is that a couple of plays down the stretch, Portland Trail Blazers, they had defensive lapses, but the Portland Trail Blazers, they could have easily won this game too. And one last game that I want to talk about is the Orlando Magic and the Los Angeles Lakers. Man, I thought the Los Angeles Lakers had this game, but last few seconds defensive rebounding and defensive lapses pretty much hurt the Lakers like they always do. Orlando Magic, they are at the 7th spot right now in the East. Yeah, the 7th spot in the East. Lakers are at the 6th spot in the West right now. And I can tell you all something. At the start of last week, the Lakers were number 5. And see, this is why I say that over the next 6 to 8 weeks, it is going to be critical for all of these teams that are vying for a playoff spot to have winning streaks, because if you go on a 3 or 4 game winning streak, that could be the difference between you having home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs or going on the road and having to take on that underdog role. Now, the last game I'm going to cover is the Orlando Magic and the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, Pablo Banchero, he had 36 points. Tristan da Silva, 13 points. Wendell Carter Jr., 20 points. Desmond Bain, 22 points. Anthony Black, 8 points. Bench production, Mortez Wagner, 4 points. Jonathan Isaac, 3 points. Javion Carter, 0 points. Jet Howard, 4 points. And Jace Richardson, 0 points. And for the Los Angeles Lakers, LeBron James, 21 points. DeAndre Ayton, 21 points. Marcus Smart, 3 points. Luka Doncic, 22 points. Austin Reeves, 18 points. Max Kelber, 0 points. Rui Hachimura, 10 points. Jared Vanderbilt, 2 points. Jake LaRivia, 3 points. Luke Kennard, 9 points. Here is the team statistics, and pretty much the same old thing with the Lakers. When you look at offensive, when you look at rebounding as a whole, Orlando out-rebounded the Lakers offensively by 5, defensively by 3. 3 points, 3-point percentage, 24% for the Orlando Magic. Los Angeles Lakers, 31%. But this really doesn't tell the story. It really doesn't, because last few minutes of this game, I mean, and this is pretty much what I've been saying with the Lakers throughout the entirety of the season and even before. As you can see, Orlando, they make a 3. Well, Pablo Banchero makes a 3 for Orlando. Coming down the stretch, you see where Lakers ball movement is pretty much stagnant. Back to, it's just Luka Doncic, LeBron James, or Austin Reeves. And as you can see, nobody is really trying to help out Luka, even though he made a 3 right there. But you don't want to keep depending on Luka to make these miraculous 3s out of nowhere. Somebody else makes a 3 for the Lakers. Rui Hachimura makes a 3 for the Lakers. But as far as defensively, the Lakers, they cannot defend. They always let the opponent get 2 steps, and it seems like to the paint. And obviously, free throws down the stretch, that pretty much hurt them too. As you can see right here, they had a coach's challenge for a foul late in the game with a minute left. And so coming down the stretch, you see where it was pretty much coming down the stretch. You see where you can't let, that's what you can't let. You can't let the player get all the way to the basket, then pass the ball out to a wide open guy for 3. Now, this is where the game was pretty much won and lost right here. See, somebody has got to send help, because we already know Banchero, he is going to win. But as far as the rebounding, and this is what's been hurting the Lakers over the past 4 seasons. Rebounding and defense. Now one thing, it was pretty much Luka had a good look, but obviously the Orlando Magic defender, he pretty much closed it off. He did. He pretty much closed it off. Now, one thing that I'm going to say is that the Orlando Magic, whoever they play in the play-in tournament, Orlando is going to win that play-in tournament matchup, no matter who they play. And for the Lakers, I believe the best playoff matchup for the Lakers right now is the Houston Rockets. And I've basically been saying that over the past 3 weeks, that the Lakers' best playoff matchup for the first round should be the Houston Rockets, because most of those guys that are on the Houston Rockets, they don't have much playoff experience, and outside of last year, it's just a lot of their second and third year at the helm. For the Lakers, it's just all about what type of Lakers team is going to show up. Is it going to be one that can consistently defend on both ends of the court, or is it going to be that team that pretty much dominates on the offensive side of the court and lacks defensive pressure and have so many defensive lapses, and they have their opponents go on runs that pretty much blow the game wide open? And that's what it's pretty much been. So I hope the Lakers don't have defensive lapses when it comes to their games, but obviously they are going to, because this is the Lakers. And obviously you have a lot of players that are on the Lakers that are not good defenders. They aren't good defenders, and they haven't been throughout the entirety of their career. But there's always hope for the Lakers. The Lakers, they can always make something interesting. They can, and they will make these playoffs interesting. And with that is my reaction from the Tuesday night slate of NBA action. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube, Key City Sports on Instagram, and the KeyOnMillions.co. We have merchandise, live merchandise that is right here on the Millions.co app and website. Here is my profile so that you will know it's me, and so that you always know it's me. Here is my media feed for all of my segments and clips and sound bites from previous shows that I've done. And remember, everybody, one last thing: the key is always on time.